Speaking of which, we have news on the BBC. The broadcaster is in trouble, but you already know that. The chairperson, Richard Sharp, is caught in a scandal. In the year 2020, he helped former Prime Minister Boris Johnson get a loan. Just after that, Johnson recommended him for the BBC chairperson's post. Was this quid pro quo for the BBC job? Was getting Johnson the loan a prerequisite for this appointment? It's been called a pals appointing pals, donating to pals situation. Sharp, of course, denies the charges, but a parliamentary committee has accused him of making significant errors of judgment. Here's a report on the scandal.
BBC chairperson Richard Sharp is in hot water. His undisclosed dealings with former Prime Minister Boris Johnson are out in the open. He helped the former PM get a loan worth almost $1 million and didn't disclose this information when he was being interviewed for his job at the BBC. Now, the House of Commons Digital, Culture, Media and Sport Committee has come out with a report. It has said Sharp made significant errors of judgment and that it has put the BBC's reputation at risk. Now, Sharp's ties with the UK's Conservative Party weren't a secret. The former Goldman Sachs partner was a major donor, having reportedly given the Tories about £400,000 or close to $500,000. During his investment banking days, Sharp even worked with current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He also acted as an advisor to Sunak during the pandemic, when Sunak was Johnson's Chancellor of the Exchequer. So when all this was in the public domain, why is Sharp under the spotlight now? It's because of the loan that could be considered a conflict of interest. You see, the BBC is the UK's public broadcaster. It's nominally independent, but being a public entity, its chairperson is recommended by the government of the day. To maintain a veneer of impartiality, the candidates are scrutinized by a cross-party panel. This is the House of Commons Digital, Culture, Media and Sport Committee. When applying for the post, the potential chairperson has to make any conflict of interest public. But Sharp did not do that. Let's look at the timeline of events. Johnson was in a spot of bother financially in 2020. A friend of Sharp's, multimillionaire Canadian businessman Sam Blythe, wanted to help the PM out. He got in touch with Sharp, who arranged a meeting between the businessman and the Cabinet Office. This led to Blythe providing an £800,000 loan guarantee to Johnson. That's almost $1 million guarantee. Then, in January, Sharp was named the government's preferred candidate for the BBC chair role. During the pre-appointment hearing, Sharp did not mention his role in facilitating the loan for Johnson. On February 16, 2021, Sharp formally took up the role of BBC chairman. The appointment is for 4 years. The loan saga was forgotten for the last 2 years. Then, the details were made public by the media on January 21, 2023. Over the last few weeks, it's been bedlam. BBC staffers are livid. Opposition MPs have been calling for Sharp's resignation. The parliamentary report says his omissions constitute a breach of the standards expected of individuals applying for prominent public appointments. The BBC's reputation has taken a hit. The scandal throws it open to accusation that it's been compromised. Ironically, it's mostly the Tories who've been criticizing the BBC's impartiality. Now, their own links to Sharp have further damaged the BBC. Labour MP and Shadow Culture Secretary Lucy Powell has called the committee's report damning. She says Sharp's position is increasingly untenable. So will the chair step down? Well, Sharp seems to be dragging his feet. He's been apologizing for his actions, but there have been no resignation hints yet. He seems to be waiting for an independent inquiry to conclude. There's also a separate internal investigation by the BBC examining conflicts of interest. But is this all an eyewash? The chair selection is a political appointment. The BBC itself has said it plays no role in the recruitment of the chair. So when the chair is chosen by the powers that be, how can it ever be completely impartial? There will always be accusations of favours being traded. After this fiasco, the BBC chairs risk being seen as government agents, or worse. For a broadcaster that prides itself in lecturing governments and making investigative documentaries, the scandal could not have come at a worse time.